Ladies and gents, welcome to the first ever match of the first ever series of the After Hours Gaming League, and we are kicking it off with a little bit of Microsoft versus Google action. In the top right, the red Terran, NATO from Team Microsoft, and Tito in the bottom left saying Cherish Day 9. Very good. I strongly recommend you do that, as I am Day 9. Tito in the ghostly pink Zerg, he will be representing Google. Going to be building lots of drones at the start, per usual, and of course the Terran not going to be doing any sort of cheese. We don't see any SCVs rally to the center of the map, just one rally to do a little wall off. NATO incorrectly saying no one likes a suck-up. As a matter of fact, I love suck-ups, and if you would like to join in that, just visit www.day9.tv. NATO doing a Microsoft-style wall-in with a supply depot, and we do see an Overlord on 10 with an extractor trick by Tito, bringing him to 11 of 10. A lot of players have been experimenting around with the extractor trick timing as of late. People used to just think the straight up 9 was best, but more and more we're seeing more extractor tricks, more clever, cutesy little builds. It looks like an 11 barracks going down by NATO, getting that quite early, continuing the SCV production. Could be seeing a 2 racks. And look at this, an 11 pool going down for Team Google's Tito. This 11 pool timing has become very popular in this matchup. Players are having a real hard time with 2 racks openings, or in particular just any sort of SCV engineering bay block at the front. That helps deal with that quite easily. We see NATO popping down there, just making sure there's no expansion up right now. And we'll be popping shortly into Tito's base, getting an early gas geyser. Generally, you get your extractor first if you are definitely going for Zergling speed. Doesn't mean he can't be doing it, but still relatively early on that timing. One drone coming out, going to be following that SCV to try to repel it out. NATO, in the meantime, looks like he's going to be going for a pretty typical barracks followed by refinery opening. This allows him the most possibilities, now getting that orbital command up. Sending his SCV forward to likely complete the wall off, but it looks like he's going to be building supply depot behind his first one. He does have a hole in the wall off right here, could be saving that for the factory, but right now this double wall off helps make him a little bit more Baneling proof, and given the fact that he saw this very early pool, no reason not to suspect that. Whoa, Tito actually going to be going for a very fast Roach Warren. So indeed not going for some sort of Zergling speed upgrade. The SCV from NATO going to have to retreat. Zergling from Tito chasing him down. Starts wailing away at that. And NATO losing a little focus on it now, beginning to pull that SCV back home to install some updates. So we do see NATO, yes, NATO from Team Microsoft does have the factory going down to complete that wall off, is going to be getting a tech lab on his barracks. Now NATO's going to be getting a little bit suspicious. He hasn't seen an expansion go down, so I do like the fact that he's having this wall in. Yep, going for that early bunker. Now moving his Marines outside the front, wants to try to pick off these Zerglings. But he sees that they get pulled back, so he will be able to slide that SCV in safe and sound. In the meantime, looks like Tito going for a little bit of cheesy action. Look at him, 7 roaches en route, doing one of the optimized styles of roach rush all-ins. NATO actually going straight for the Marauder. I mean, almost always you'd see a player go straight for a double Hellion opening, the factory with the reactor on it, but it looks like NATO recognizing what he's up against, getting a starport. This is a brilliant, brilliant response with this early second refinery. This is going to allow him to get some Banshees out to pick off Team Google's roaches coming in. And Tito looks like he has absolutely no intention of ever slowing down this roach rush. Actually popped 2 drones out of the gas geyser, allowing him to get a little bit more focus on the minerals. The roaches are incoming right now. And NATO better lift that supply depot. Oh no, he's getting baited by the Overlord. He's trying to move out. No, he's getting baited by the Zerglings. Oh no, he's the roaches coming in. He's going to have to pull back. Can he lift up supply depots in time? It looks like, yeah, but the roaches are actually going to be able to whittle away at these depots from below. With the Marauder in the bunker, going to allow him a little bit of leeway. We do see there's a tech lab going down on the starport, and suddenly Tito from Team Google going to have to completely abandon his previous plan of winning with an all-in roach rush, now throwing down a hatchery at his natural expansion. And there it is. There's all the roaches working away on the supply depots from the low ground. NATO from Team Microsoft trying to pull his SCVs over to do a little repair in action. And once that Banshee pops out, this is going to completely shut this down. Trying to pick off some SCVs. Now just going to go ahead and straight target fire the supply depot, but upon losing a roach, we see Tito does pull back making nothing but drones at this point. Still has 2 in the geyser. Now building an evolution chamber. This is a very smart play by Tito. He sees the factory. He sees not a lot of units. So that means that these are not the primary focus of NATO's unit producing. So he's going to go ahead and he's going to go ahead and suspect a starport's coming up. Not only allows him to get the upgrades for his units, but also the spore crawlers to defend appropriately. A layer also coming down for Tito. Hatch almost done in the unit counting station. We do see that Tito is still behind in the drone count. That's one of the deficits of those all-ins. And NATO's Banshee arrives, and Tito's going to have to do the slow retreat back. NATO picking off 1 roach, trying to pick off some more. And Tito's smartly going to try to split some of his roaches off from the main force, but Banshees are faster than roaches, so he's going to be able to easily pick those off. And look at Tito just having the attack go straight towards the natural. Second barracks going down, no upgrades coming up. Thor coming out, interestingly. Looks like NATO at the same time is worried about some sort of follow-up with Mutalisks popping in, but of course Tito is actually way far behind at this point in time. NATO beginning to slowly work away at that natural expansion, and because these were not joined up with creep, oh no, the spore crawler is going to have to go so slowly down off the creep. There's 1 queen there, but a banshee does beat a creep, and one-on-one it looks like the spore crawler is pulling back, and it looks like there NATO does see the queen. He's going to begin working away at it, trying to do a lot of damage. Tito's trying to retreat back to this 1 spore crawler, but the queen does manage to get out in time, and now we do see Tito working his way back over to the natural, but there's a queen there to greet it. NATO's going to have to do the full out-and-out retreat, but oh, no he won't. There's a second Banshee that's been constructed. We even see a 3rd Banshee in production. NATO going for the all-out aggression, and a nice transfuse by Tito, allowing him to keep that alive. Meanwhile, back home, we see more Banshees getting produced. Thors popping out, Marauders popping out. Oh my gosh, he is just going for the kill right now, but he will not be able to get out. In fact, Thors cannot fit out that entrance. NATO is going to end up salvaging the bunker, and now that Thor can end up popping out the front, and this is an extremely intimidating force coming forward by the Terran player. Google's Tito trying to get up some sort of counter-offensive, trying to get this Spire up. Is able to do a decent amount of damage with that Roach Rush, but not much, and at this point he cannot afford to just sit and build drones. There's a huge attack force swinging on in. We see those auto-repair SCVs doing their nice fancy work on those Banshees, following that Thor as well. And keep in mind, the auto-repair Banshees do incredible amounts of damage to Queens. You thought the Thor was obnoxious to deal with? Try a Banshee. Or technically, even a battlecruiser is worse than that, but I highly doubt that we're going to see battlecruisers out of NATO right now. What's the best counter to a Roach Rush? Pfft, get a battlecruiser. Nice play, NATO. So we do see NATO advancing forward with the Thor, and there the Roaches starting to work their way down at the destructible rocks on the right side, but at the worst possible time as we see the Thor and Banshee rolling on in. 3 Queens, they're starting to pick away, but the auto-repair Banshee doing a lot of damage. Oh no, the Thor gets caught off guard. Thor does get surrounded and taken out, but there's a second Thor from behind. We do see Tito in a lot of trouble. Has almost no units on the field right now, and this is an extremely potent force that NATO's pushing with. Very tough right now for the Zerg player to deal with. Even a Hellion out there to deal a little bit of damage should any Zerglings pop up, and there we do see the Mutalisks and the Zerglings arriving. The only thing that can really shoot up are these 2 Marines and this 1 Thor. If by some miracle Tito can manage to pick off the Thor, then he has 4 Banshees, 5 Marauders, and a bunch of SCVs essentially free. But as we can see, those Thors do so much damage to the Mutalisks. Tito in a lot of trouble. Microsoft might be pulling off to an early lead right now, being able to pick off the Zerg's natural expansion and push in for the win. But is NATO gonna do my favorite decision-making ever? Once you kill off the natural expansion, just go home and do another expand yourself. NATO playing so smart. Great tactical decision-making there by NATO. Not gonna try to risk it going in for a kill. Going to try to do some damage with these Banshees. He does pick off 1 Queen, and now that the Mutalisks do rear their ugly heads, it means these Banshees are guaranteed to die, so Tito's going to do as much damage, or NATO's going to do as much damage as he can, but as it turns out, it's not going to be enough. Tito ends up annihilating him with this little pack of Mutalisks. Expansion Command Center now pulling back for NATO. NATO going to continue to make his mix of Marines, Thors, Banshees. 1 Thor. Oh no, Mr. Thor's locked down on the low ground, poaching forward a little bit. Looks like it could get a big shot off on these Mutalisks. Their clusters up quite a bit, and oh, a big 2 huge shots. Tito getting ripped to shreds by the range 10 on those Thor shots. And now one Mulus tried to come in for reinforcement. It gets taken out. Tito in so much trouble as Mulus harass is now completely denied. Not only did it not do that much damage, but look at the health, almost all in the orange and reds. Second natural expansion attempt by Tito, not looking too healthy at this point in time. His main is starting to dry up. Hasn't even been able to get any upgrades out of that evolution chamber. Zerglings do secure that Xelnaga watchtower, the double gas being taken by the Terran player. Microsoft's NATO has not gotten any upgrades for his 2 Marines, but now that he has the double tech lab, he can begin getting the combat shield and stim for an early second push. Tank now en route realizes that he doesn't actually need that much anti-air anymore, as he does have 3 Thors, and he's up against a Zerg that only has 2 extractors. That is essentially no ability for the Zerg to replenish a lot of Mutiles. He's going to go ahead and try to knock out these destructible rocks. Google's Tito going to try to take his 3rd base. Since he lost his 1 natural expansion, he's going to go for the risky play. Very, very smart at this point in time. He's already so far behind. A big risk that pays off is what Tito needs to pull ahead and possibly get an amazing miracle win for his team, Google, at the outset. Engineering Bay is going to get built eventually. I don't see any SCVs that are going to be building that. And ooh, I always love this play by Terrans when they wall off this inner entrance, so that way they can push out the far side, thereby securing their gold base. Mulus now swinging in for Tito, trying to do a little bit of damage back onto the right side. Destructible rocks now get knocked down. There's Tito doing the big risk, the 3rd hatch. It's the one key that he can possibly use to pop back in this game, and a Thor, brilliantly positioned by NATO, is going to repel that. 1 medevac is out right now, the Banshee Hellion Marauder Thor mix. One of the popular mixtures a couple of months after StarCraft 2 came out. Now we're seeing more Terran players go back to the Marine tank focus, but that doesn't mean that this big mech-heavy force is not a potent mixture in the early and mid-game. Marines and Marauders popping out, still no upgrades. It looks like NATO going to be going for a second re-push. There, the Mutiles going to try to pick off those Hellions, but they have to be careful. The Thors are just a few inches off the screen. He could possibly do a lot of damage. Oh, Tito! Oh! Was able to do a good amount of damage, but then had to pull back at the last second due to the fact that Mutalists are not so good against Thors, especially when there are 3 Thors in that mix. And NATO, I'm loving this type of movement that he's doing. Moving forward and then pulling hard back. Look, he's forcing his opponent to make roaches, when really Tito would much prefer to be making drones, as we see almost no drones at that expansion. 2 Queens now pulling down right now. Infestation Pit up. Could get some big neural parasites to pick off those Thors. But we're seeing NATO just get the money mixture of all the units he wants. There's the infantry weapon going down. There's the tanks getting produced 2 at a time from the factory. A 3rd command center popping down by NATO. And right now Microsoft is looking quite good at this opening stage. There's the +1 vehicle weapons going down. We're seeing the mineral fields kind of drying up at this point in time. Tito's getting a little, or excuse me, NATO's getting a little bit low on the minerals in the main, but of course, so is Tito. Both players running quite dry, as it was 1 base versus 1 base for a while. And oh no, a lot of well-placed missile turrets, and even a defensive Thor. We see those missile turrets ringing the base. Absolutely nothing that those Mutiles can do, and right now it looks like NATO is going to be able to take himself an early gold base. And again, this 3rd, really hard for Zerg to have begun making drones for that 3rd, due to the fact that NATO keeps pushing out and pulling back, and pushing out and pulling back, constantly freaking out Tito, forcing him to make more units, and right now, this force is not looking that strong. NATO is in a rough spot. And by NATO, I mean Tito. NATO's in a great spot. Tito's in a rough spot. There's NATO now adding on some mules. Refineries going down at the natural expansion. 3 barracks up right now, producing a good amount of Marauders. More Thors coming out, and uh-oh, looks like the Death Ball army of NATO finally beginning to advance forward. And there's the goal, looking a little bit vulnerable. Tito going to be able to get a nice little advantage, picking off some of those SCVs. The mules get taken down. We see NATO on the minimap pulling back everything he has to try to defend. And there's another big Thor shot dealing a lot of damage to those Mutalisks. NATO trying to get into a good spot. Trying as best he can, but the Mutalisks keeping him pinned back a little bit. But hey, 1 Hellion does manage to do a little bit of damage, but most importantly, see that there's no drones mining there. And NATO, who's been carefully repositioning his army all game along, might be going for a final push. Tito looks like he's advancing forward with a couple of his Zerglings and Roaches and Mutalisks, everything coming forward. And oh no, half the army from NATO was left back at the natural. The Thor does fall. The Mutalisks can now rip apart this Marauder force. The Banshee ends up falling down, but now finally the Thors end up rushing forward, and Tito, whose eyes got big, picked off some units, now suddenly on the retreat once again, has a couple of infestors at the backside. Do they have that neural parasite upgrade? No, they do not. It's going to be all fungal growth and infested Terrans. Transfuse going down on the Mutalisks, trying to keep them alive as best he can. Hellion swinging around the left side. More units from NATO. Even a Raven popping out into the fray. Those point defense drones can be so annoying against those Mutalisks. Extremely effective. NATO keeping his money low, producing a lot of metal. A handful of infantry as well. Zerglings and Mutalisks grouping up on the right side of that third expansion. And now Tito's starting to scoot forward with his infestors. Trying to get into a good position right now, NATO. Just holding that left Xelnaga watchtower, waiting for an opportune time to push. He sees that his opponent does not yet have that gold expansion. Big advantage, and there's the Raven helping so much, picking off those creep tumors, and now it looks like, uh-oh, Tito advancing forward for a final offensive. Oh, doesn't manage to get the fungal growths off. No, loses all the infestors without doing anything. Mutalisks still trying to find a poke in angle in the main, but the missile turret's there to repel, and NATO just has so much stuff. He is continuing to trundle forward with all his Thors, Marauders, and Marines, picking off any creep tumor in his wake, and with only 12 Roaches coming out for Tito, he's in a lot of trouble, but Mutalisks trying to do any damage they can, trying to cut off reinforcements. The gigantic army of NATO now ripping apart this natural expansion. More infestors get taken out without any spells being able to get cast. Roaches up at the high ground, drones chilling, doing nothing. The Mutalisks trying to pull back, but NATO is well secured on that retreat route. Couple of tanks caught in the backside. Tito's going to be able to pick them off for free, but no, he's actually going to try to sprint forward and try to defend his main. But there are 5 Thors outside the front. Tito's going to arrive. The Mutalisks cluster up, and a 6th Thor on the backside ends up cleaning up, and there is good game. NATO from Team Microsoft gonna pull the early lead. Google now down 0-1. Let's find out what happens going into game number 2.